Very, very simple things. So, the most important one is your preload, okay? Preload means ride height. It's a fancy name for ride height, okay? So, start at the back of the bike. That bike is sat, I don't know, I'm going to guess 1.1 meters from the ground to, say, this point here. You'll pick a point on your tail unit, maybe your indicator or something, okay? You'll measure that, and when you sit on it, you want to measure that again, okay? So how much the bike goes down by, okay? That's now called your rider's sag. How much the bike sags when the rider gets on it. Simple, okay? You don't want too much of that, because if the bike sags too much, the forks will go out like that, and then you'll be effectively riding a big American chopper. Big American chopper that doesn't go around corners, okay? So ride height is your preload in the rear, okay? Who here has an adventure bike? Adventure bikers, okay, right, you guys, you need to listen to
You
this.
need to stand up.
Excuse me. So, adventure bikers are notorious for this. They'll have their bike handling nice when they're riding on their own, but then when they go off on their trips to Wales and stuff, they'll load up with boxes and tents and extra tires and all the rest of the stuff that you bring with you. Yeah? And then the bike will start to sag and sag and sag and sag and sag and sag. Next thing the bike is sat like this. It doesn't turn into corners, it won't go around a roundabout. When you turn back out of a roundabout, it's slow to turn over. That's what's happening. You've got too much weight at the back. It's not about weight. The bike can handle the weight. It's got you on it. Okay? What the issue is, the arse of the bike is now on the floor. It's way too low. So you use your preload adjuster, and you'll see a lot of the bikes have like a knob here that you can wind in. And what that will do is it will jack the back of the bike back up again where it should be as standard when there's no weight in the bike. Does that make sense? Understand? Okay, cool. Right, now we're going to go through preload on the front, okay? So your preload adjuster on the front is up here. So I have a little bit of detail here, okay? So this 14mm nut on the top, that's your preload on the front. That will set your ride height in front. So if you're having issues with ride height, it's not so obvious on the front. It's usually, you need to use a travel indicator. Okay, so the travel indicator is as simple as putting a cable tie onto the stanchion of the fork. Like this one here. This is a fancy one. Okay, you don't need a fancy one. You can just have a normal cable tie, push the cable tie to the top. When you go out for a spirited ride, pick a route that you can stick to when you're testing your bike. A half-an-hour route, lots of good fast corners, some technical bits and some hard braking. Do that same route while you're testing. When you come back, your ride height indicator or your travel indicator will have moved somewhere, okay? Hopefully, it doesn't go any further than 90%, okay? If it's going more than 90%, it means you're hitting the bump stops in the front, suspension, and then that's causing discomfort and handling issues, okay?
So what will happen if it goes all the way down?
Excuse me. So if it goes all the way down, it will effectively go through all your travel. You'll have no suspension left anymore. If that's happening in a corner, say if you're in a roundabout and all of a sudden, I don't know, somebody pulls out in front of you, you have to hit the brakes. You've no more suspension there to soften any bumps that are on the ground. You'll just kick the wheel free of the tarmac, and you'll effectively low slide or slide the front out. Okay? You need suspension there to absorb the bumps. If you've gone through all of your suspension, then you can't absorb the bumps anymore. Make sense? Nice and easy, simple, okay? You also don't want to be using too little, because then you're just wasting your time with your suspension. If your suspension is up here, ride harder, okay? You've got lots of room there. Lots of room there. You can brake harder, you can corner harder, but it's okay if you're only using that, okay? Right, let's get into damping, okay?
What's damping?
Damping. This is a lot more fun than it sounds. I'm joking, it's not, it's really boring. Okay, cool. Right, so this is like most shocks you get on bikes, okay? This is slightly fancier than some of them because it's got two different adjusters for the compression and one for the rebound on the bottom, okay? What does that mean? Okay, right, forget the names because it's very confusing. One means how fast it goes that way, and the other one means how fast it returns to the same length. Does that make sense? Simple. What we're trying to achieve is comfort. If you're comfortable, you're fast and in control. Okay? If the bike feels harsh and it's shocking you up through the handlebars, or the opposite side, the bike is soft and it's wallowing around and it feels out of control and it's just twitchy, that's uncomfortable. Okay? What what we're looking for is somewhere nice and in the middle. There is no one size fits all for this because we're all different shapes, we all have different rider styles. So it's all about finding what suits you. Get your manual. Most of you that have adjusters on your bikes will probably have a manual or have access to internet where you can get a manual for it. And it will give you what we call base settings. You'll find your rider your own weight with your kit on, and then you can adjust the bike to suit accordingly. Okay, that will get you very, very close. If you're still not happy with it, pick a route around your house about half an hour long, as I said, quite technical, lots of hard braking, lots of fast corners. Something that's quite challenging. Go ride that route, come back. On the suspension, you'll have flathead screwdrivers. Okay? One on the top, one on the bottom typically. Okay? One will be the compression, the other one is the rebound, otherwise known as 10. This one is called 10. Okay? That means tension. So pulling apart. Okay?
And what's the S and H?
Where? Oh, soft hard. Yep. So that will be the S and the H there on the bottom. I'm sure you can see it on the top there. That will mean soft and hard. It's just an indicator of which way you're going when you're adjusting the suspension. Okay? So as I said, there's no one size fits all with your suspension. Go out, do that loop, come back, grab your screwdriver and go 2 clicks, what we call a click. It's a half turn on one of those adjusters. When you turn it, you can feel it notch into a different position. That's so you can count it. Go 2 clicks positive, go for a ride. Only adjust one thing at a time. Go for a ride, bring it back, and go, right, that kind of felt a bit more stable, but maybe it was uncomfortable, okay? Go 2 clicks the opposite way. So you go back to the original setting and then go 2 clicks negative. Does that make sense? Okay? Go for a ride out and then feel the difference. If you want a dramatic difference, go 4 clicks positive from that setting up to where you were before, okay? And this is just to get a good understanding of what those settings are, or what difference those settings are making. Does that make sense? Have I lost anybody? No? Okay, cool. Right, so that's on your rear. On your front, you'll feel the damping a lot more, you'll give it a lot more positive feedback on the front end, okay? So your compression damping. If you're feeling the shock, the bumps shocking your hands, coming up through your shoulders, your compression damping is too slow, okay? It's not allowing the forks to compress and absorb the bumps as you're going along. What's happening is when the bumps hit the wheel, it just shoves the whole bike into the air instead of the wheel into the bike. Does that make sense? Okay? So what you want to do is you can go 2 clicks negative, wind it out, and that will make it a lot more plush and allow it to move up and down a lot easier, okay? If you go too far, feel like a pogo stick, okay? And then you come back from that again. So it's all about finding what you like. Some people like a very, very soft, gentle bike. I prefer an extremely hard and less forgiving bike. More fun. Excuse me. Okay, rebound. Is everybody with me? There's loads of terms here. Okay, cool, brilliant, brilliant. Rebound. This is how fast the wheel returns back to its original position. So when the bump hits the wheel and it moves up, it's how fast it comes back down into position again, okay? If you have very fast rebounds, when it gets pushed up and it slams back down again, that will make the bike feel like a pogo stick, okay? And especially when you're in a roundabout, you're turning right, you're going right and right, and you see your exit, when you want to exit, if you have a very fast rebound, the bike will come up extremely fast and feel like it wants to hit you in the chin, and then you turn that way. Okay, that's uncomfortable, that's jarring, and slow you down and make everything unsteady. So what we want to do is slow down that rebound. Again, the rebound adjuster is on the top of this one. It's a little 3mm Allen key. You pop a 3mm Allen key into the top of the fork stanchion there, and you can wind it left or right, okay?
Is that the same on all forks?
It's not the same on all forks. Every different manufacturer. These ones are K-Tech. Oland's will be different, Batuba will be different, Sachs will be different, and all different manufacturers have their own way of doing the same thing. Okay, there's only 3 adjustments on it. Okay, so if your rebound is too fast, remember when you're in a corner and you want to turn out, or when you're in a roundabout and you want to turn off the roundabout, the bike feels like it's going to come up and hit you in the chin, and then you go that way. You want to slow that down. If you've slowed it down too much, the bike will get sluggish and it won't want to come up and turn. It won't want to go over that way. It's a big labourer's turn. Some people like that. Some people like a slow, predictable, safe feeling bike. For me, I like a bike that is usually jacked up real high in the back and very aggressive on the front, but that's just a track thing. Has anybody got any questions so far? I've covered everything. Aren't I great?
Guys, ask us a question.
Anybody here do track days? No? Okay, good. Very much.
So, how do you set your suspension for different kind of terrains? Like, for example, for motocross, do you want it harder or do you want it softer?
Well, you typically just buy a bike suited for that. So I would bring this bike motocrossing, but you could be bringing, if you wanted to go from, say, like, has anybody here got a 10 or a T7? No, quite common this year. So a 10 or a T7 is quite an aggressive adventure bike. It's very motocross style orientated. You could bring one of those around a motocross track quite easily and then ride it home on the motorway. So the differences in the suspension there, when you are going off-road, you want it nice and plush. You want it to be able to absorb lots and lots of bumps and big bumps as well. So you'd be backing off the compression damping, so it allows it to move a lot faster. And then effectively the same with the rebound. But again, it's all about comfort. You can make an adjustment and go ride the bike and it feels unstable and it feels like it doesn't want to turn or it's glitchy or twitchy. Then you just back it off. The key to this and being safe is remembering where your suspension settings were to start with.
What about upside down suspension?
Okay, that's a good question we had yesterday. Does anybody here have upside down forks like this? The tubes on the front, on the top, and this stanchion on the bottom? Okay, so you have right side up. Okay, what's the difference between upside down and right side up forks? Nothing that really concerns you, okay? The reason for them is these upside down forks are better, they're more adjustable, they're easier to kind of work on, there is lots of advantages of them, but if you're out riding on the road, there isn't a massive difference in it. If you're riding from here to, I don't know, where's close by, from here to Oxford, and you go to Oxford on a bike that has upside down forks and you come back on conventional forks, you're not really going to feel a difference. It does start to feel a difference when you get on track and you start racing. That's when you start noticing the really finer details and the improvements of these bikes. But the biggest difference you'll find with these is when you go to a coffee meet, you get to show everybody a nice fancy suspension.
Nice. And finally, do you need any specialist tools to do all of this?
That's the beauty of suspension. You need zero specialist tools to adjust your suspension. You need maybe an 8mm socket for the rear and a 12 for the front. That's on my bike. Most of the bikes are very, very similar, but the tool set you have at home is plenty good enough for what you need to do, and a flat blade screwdriver will adjust the rest 90% of the time.
Okay, guys.